Now, a 64-team World Cup is back on the agenda after some of the most powerful executives in South American football met FIFA yesterday to present their proposals for an expanded tournament in 2030. Chief correspondent Kaveh Solhekol joins me now. Kaveh, what is going on?
Well, look, next summer we are going to have the first ever 48-team World Cup finals in USA, Canada and Mexico. But for some people, 48 teams is just not enough. And the people I'm talking about are senior football executives in South America, because the World Cup in 2030 is the 100th anniversary of the first World Cup in 1930. And at the moment, the 2030 World Cup is going to be in Spain, Portugal and Morocco, but there are going to be 3 opening games in Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay, as a nod to the fact that it's the 100th anniversary of the World Cup. But the South Americans are now saying 3 games is not enough. Considering what we have contributed to football worldwide, surely we deserve more than 3 games. And that is why they've been lobbying to expand the World Cup from 48 teams to an almost unbelievable 64 teams. And what they did yesterday in New York, the president of the South American Football Confederation, Mr. Alejandro Dominguez, along with the presidents of Paraguay and Uruguay, met the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, to make their case. And to be fair to FIFA, I think FIFA's position is always, look, if a member association or a confederation or a president of a country comes along with an idea or a proposal, then we are duty bound to consider it. But just because we are considering it, just because we're listening, it doesn't mean that it is a policy priority for the current FIFA administration.
100th anniversary, might as well have 100 teams in for the World Cup. I mean, look,
don't rule it out.
64. Can you really see that happening? And trying to be as objective as possible, surely that would go down like, what can we say on television? A lead balloon, let's say.
Well, it would be, I think, very, very unpopular amongst the vast majority of football fans. You would have a situation where FIFA has got 211 member associations. If you had a 64-team World Cup, almost a third of everybody who's a member of FIFA would be playing in the finals. Also, what kind of knock-on effect would it have on qualifying? Because qualifying already for a lot of the strongest sides is pretty academic. But if you were going to have a 64-team World Cup, I mean, qualifying really would be in danger of becoming a bit of a joke for the strongest sides. I think, if you're asking me, is it possible? Of course, anything is possible in football. We know that. But I would have to say at the moment, I think it's unlikely, because UEFA are totally opposed to it. CONCACAF, the confederation that represents North and Central America, they are opposed to it as well. And I don't think FIFA are necessarily in favour of the idea. I think FIFA are at the stage where they are just listening. That is what they're doing at the moment. But this idea, it all comes from South America. Unfortunately, they agreed to this World Cup in 2030, which meant that they were only going to get 3 games. A lot of people thought that they should have stood firm and said, no, in 2030, we need to have a World Cup in South America. Because I think, since we had the World Cup in Argentina in 1978, there's only been 1 World Cup in South America, 2014 in Brazil. So you can make a very, very strong case that we need to have more World Cups in South America. But I think most people would say having a 64-team World Cup with more teams and more games in South America is the wrong way to go about things.
Kaveh, thank you very much for now.